The secret rares for the set include Tri-Brigade Arms Mouser. This is an Earth attribute linked to Effect Monster with 1800 attack, and there aren't any defense points. It requires 2 Beast, Beast Warrior, and or Winged Beast monsters. If this card is link summoned, you can send 2 Tri-Brigade cards with different names from your deck and or extra deck to the graveyard, except Tri-Brigade Arms Mouser. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except Beast, Beast Warrior, or Winged Beast monsters. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one face-up monster on the field, change it to face-down defense position. You can only use each effect of Tri-Brigade Arms Mouser once per turn. This is another link monster to do with the Tri-Brigade archetype. They already have pretty much 3 or 4 already, given that they have a link 2, a link 3, a link 4, and a link 5. So this would be a 5th. This also gives you a bit of a separation of the archetype, if you will, because now you have a choice of going into 1 or 2 link 2 monsters rather than just kind of standard one. It has decent attack points at 1800, and it only requires 2 relatively common archetypal support cards in terms of typing. It's fine and can be splashed into so many types of decks. The ability, as soon as this card is linked summoned, to just Foolish Barrel 2 Tri-Brigade cards means that you'll be able to access those cards much easier. Some of them have their own graveyard-based effects which activate when sent to the graveyard and can help you to search for other cards within the archetype. This does prevent you from special summoning for the extra deck for the rest of the turn, except Beast, Beast Warrior, or Winged Beast monsters, but that's not a problem given for Tri-Brigades that's all they summon. As soon as this card happens to be sent to the graveyard, you can Book of Moon one of your opponent's monsters. It can technically be one of yours as well, but you're more likely to use this against your opponent. Best thing about that is this is an archetype that likes to constantly link for himself, so this will be sent to the graveyard either by you or your opponent. Gung Ho Spriggans is a fire attribute rank 4 machine exceeds monster with 2500 attack and 1600 defense. It requires 2 more level 4 Springer monsters. If this card is exceed summoned or sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Spriggans Captain Sargus from your deck or at graveyard. You can detach 2 materials from this card, add to your hand, or special summon 1 of the following monsters from your deck. Either a Spriggans monster, Therian monster, or a Fallen of Albaz, or 1 monster that mentions it. You can only use 1 Gung Ho Spriggans effect per turn, and only once that turn. This card is pretty easy to bring out, given that it only needs 2 or more level 4 Spriggans monsters. Attack points for a rank 4 is also fine, same attack points as a Utopia, and as soon as this is exceed summoned or sent to the graveyard, you can instantly bring out a Spriggans Captain Sargus from the deck or graveyard. This means not only are you replacing the card, but you're making it much easier to access into other parts of the Spriggans archetype. By detaching 2 materials, you can either choose to add to your hand or special summon a Spriggans, a Therian, or a Fallen of Albaz card. This can be useful depending on what part of the archetype you're really going for. Each has its own abilities. Therians very much rely on negation-based effects. Spriggans like to have a number of their Exceeds monsters currently on the field, and by detaching different materials, they can then trigger off destruction-based effects, and with Fallen of Albaz, they can go into various types of fusion monsters very quickly, and those monsters can disrupt your opponent through anything from burn damage to removing some of their strongest monsters, and including with the Mirror Jade Ice Dragon being able to wipe out all of the opponent's cards on the field. The Dragon that Devours the Dogma is a Dark Attribute level 8 Beast type fusion effect monster. It has 3000 attack and 2500 defense, and requires a Fallen of Albaz plus 1 light or dark monster plus an effect monster. While an Ecclesia monster is on the field or in either graveyard, this card gains 500 attack. Also, it is unaffected by other card effects. You can only use each of the following effects of the Dragon that Devours the Dogma once per turn. If this card is special summoned, you can shuffle up to 2 cards from any graveyards and or banishment into the deck. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can add 1 Dog Massacre or Tri-Brigade card from your deck to your hand. This is another fusion monster that happens to work alongside Fallen of Albaz. It has 3000 attack and 2500 defense, so it has the same stat line as a Blue Eyes White Dragon. It's a dark attribute, there's plenty of support for dark archetypes. It being a beast monster is not typically supported by most types of decks outside of maybe Tri-Brigades. It's also a decent superimmunization target, given that you can just fuse it with a couple of your monsters plus 1 of your opponents, as you could either meet that conditioned by your opponent having a light or dark monster or them having an effect monster. It really works in and amongst any of your opponent's decks, no matter what they're running. As soon as you've got an Ecclesia monster in the field or in either graveyard, this card becomes a 3,500 attack monster, and it's immune to other card effects. So that means that your opponent will have to boost their own monsters to beyond that 3,500 attack points threshold before they can wipe this card out in battle. And in terms of the other effects, as soon as this card is special summoned, so it can actually be through its original fusion summon, or if it gets revived from the graveyard, being able to shuffle 2 cards from any graveyards or banishment into the deck means you can either choose to recover your own cards or to disrupt your opponent by sending their cards back into the deck. This can be more difficult for them to then search for those cards, especially if they've spent a load of resources to get those cards into the graveyard to trigger off certain effects. During the end phase, provided this card is in the graveyard, you're able to just search for a Dogmatica or Tri-Brigade card, so it has at least some placement effect to it, so you can then extend into additional combos. Archfiend Heiress is a Dark Attribute level 3 Fiend effect monster with 1000 attack and 0 defense. If this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect or being destroyed by battle, you can add 1 Archfiend card from your deck to your hand except Archfiend Heiress. You can only use this effect of Archfiend Heiress once per turn. The summoning on this card is pretty easy. It's just a level 3 monster. It can be used within plenty of different strategies, and it's very well supported as a Dark Attribute monster. Because it works in synergy with level 3s, it can be brought out almost by tour guide of the underworld, and if this card happens to be sent to the graveyard, either by card effect or by being destroyed by battle, you instantly get to search for any of your Archfiend cards from your deck to your hand except another copy of itself. It seems very easy to then bring out your other cards, and it's not a problem to be running multiple copies of it. Pot of the Forbidden is an Earth Attribute level 9 flip effect monster with 2000 attack and 3000 defense. The effect is you can activate one of these effects, either draw 2 cards, return all spell and trap cards on the field to the hand, destroy all monsters your opponent controls, or look at your opponent's hand and choose 1 card from it to shuffle into the deck. You can only use this effect of Pot of the Forbidden once per turn. This is one of the strongest style of cards, so you do have a number of these jar cards such as Morphing Jar, Cyber Jar, Fiber Jar, etc. This being a level 9 typically isn't too easy to bring out, but there are quite a lot of flip support cards, especially with the new Enneacraft, which allow you to summon those cards in face down defense position just by revealing one of those monsters. It has 3000 defense points, so it's not something that's easy to get over, and each of its effects reflect a powerful card which has effective banned in the past. The first to draw 2 cards is Pot of Greed. The second effect is Giant Trunade, returning all spells and traps on the field to the hand. The third effect is destroying all monsters your opponent controls. That's a Raigeki effect. And the fourth is the Forceful Sentry, which allows you to then choose a card from your opponent's hand and shuffle it back into the deck. All very powerful effects, and if you can actually reliably bring this card out, it can be enough to disrupt your opponent from getting into what they need. Therian Lily Berea is a Wind Attribute level 8 plant type effect monster. It has 2400 attack and 2500 defense. You only use each of the following effects of Therian Lily Berea once per turn. You can target 1 Therian monster or 1 plant monster in your graveyard, special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, equip that monster to this card. Or you can send 1 card from your hand or field to the graveyard, add 1 Therian spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. A Therian monster equipped with this card gains 700 attack. Also, it can activate the second effect listed above as if it were Therian Lily Berea. So with this, these Therian cards all have the ability to equip themselves onto other cards. That could be quite useful in protecting those cards or being able to negate whatever your opponent does. It has a balanced stat line in its attack and defense, and is often seen given that it's a plant type within plant type decks, including those run by Akisa Asinski from Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, who had the Black Rose Dragon. The first ability just lets you target either a Therian monster, so within its own archetype support, or a plant monster in your graveyard. They get special summoned, this card gets special summoned, and then that monster gets equipped to the card. The secondary ability, just by sending a card from the hand to the graveyard, it allows you to search for a Therian spell or trap card from your deck to the hand. That's fantastic because that just helps you to circulate your cards and search for, and deck thin at same point. The final part of the effect allows for your monsters to be boosted by 700 attack points. That's not a small increase, and it also allows the secondary ability, which is the searching for Etherian spell or trap, to be treated as though this monster has activated that effect. It makes the card design very easy to access and is typical within a rank 8 style plant deck. Time Reloader is a light attribute level 8 machine effect monster with 1200 attack and 2400 defense. During the main phase, if a monster on the field is flipped face up, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then change one face up monster on the field to face down defense position. During the main phase, if this card is flipped face up, you can target one monster in your graveyard, special summon it in defense position, then change one face up monster on the field to face down defense position. You can only use each effect of Time Reloader once per turn. The attack and defense stats on this are fine, given that it's really there just to disrupt your opponent. So long as a monster on the field has been flipped face up, this card is instantly able to be special summoned from the hand. That means you don't have to go into the 2 tributes which would typically necessary to bring this out, or to bring this out by other means which are quite obscure, such as through the effect of Shining Angel. You're able to also disrupt your opponent by flipping a face-up monster to face-down defense position, so this is another version of Book of Moon. Just during the main phase, once this card has been flipped face-up, you're able to choose a monster in your graveyard and it can be special summoned in defense position. You're then also able to Book of Moon another card, so this can also help to disrupt the opponent. Essentially, it can use a Book of Moon style of effect twice within its own effect, but it is designed specifically for the time archetype, so you do have a couple of things for it, but not enough to make a substantial deck. Convertible is a Earth attribute level 8 Wing Beast flip effect monster with 1400 attack and 2800 defense. The effect is flip and special summon one level 5 or higher flip monster from your deck face down defense position, except convertible. During the battle phase, if this card is in your hand as a quick effect, you can target one face down monster on the field, send it to the graveyard, and if you do special summon this card in face down defense position, you can only use each effect of convertible once per turn. The stat line on this is fine, given that it's supposed to be a more defensive card. 2800 for a level 8 is decent. It being a winged beast is not in keeping too much with any flip-based archetypes, because I can't name a single other card within a typing that works alongside that. Most flip effect monsters tend to be either, well, most are originally rock types, and I'm thinking some of the really old ones, like Guardian Statue. There is the Sphinx card, and there's a couple of other ones which kind of match that. Those came out within a structure deck, which was including Exod, that had a burn effect when rock monsters were flipped. This is just able to special summon a level 5 or higher flip monster from the deck. It does have to be in face down defense position, but that actually works well with certain archetypes such as the Enneacraft, which is why it has been partnered within this new pack. During the battle phase, provided this card is in the hand, you're able to send a face down monster on the field to the graveyard just to special summon this card, so you can actually replace that monster with this. And because this is quite high defense points, it is most likely going to be able to survive. Royal Archfiend is a fight attribute level 7 fiend effect monster with 2400 attack and 1000 defense. You contribute this card from your hand or face up field, add one Archfiend card from your deck to your hand, except Royal Archfiend. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except Archfiend monsters, but you can normal summon one Fiend monster during your main phase this turn, in addition to your normal summon set. You can only gain this effect once per turn. When your ritual monster is destroyed by battle while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card. You can only use each effect of Royal Archfiend once per turn. This is a 2400 attack monster, which is fine for a level 7. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of a defensive boost, but it's okay for what you need. By attributing this card, and this can be either from the hand or face up, you can then search for an Archfiend card from your deck to your hand, so it can be a spell, a trap, or a monster, except another copy of itself. You are restricted from summoning any monsters from the extra deck outside of Archfiends, but that's, if you're dedicating a deck towards it, you're most likely going to be fine with that. But it does give you, as a trade-off, the ability to normal summon a additional Fiend monster during your main phase this turn. That's good as that will help to increase your field advantage. As soon as a ritual monster is destroyed by battle, and this card happens to be in the graveyard, you can replace that ritual monster with this monster. And that means you can then trigger off its effect again to then search for an Archfiend card, so it has a decent level of synergy and recyclability. Mimigul Flower is an Earth Attribute level 1 plant flip effect monster with 0 attack and 2100 defense. Flip, if it is the main phase, apply these effects in sequence. Your opponent can add one flip monster or one Mimigul card from their deck to the hand, or give control of this card to your opponent. During your main phase, you can special summon this card from your hand to your opponent's field in face-down defense position, or if a face-down monster is on the field, you can special summon this card face-up on your field. You can only use each effect of Mimigul Flower once per turn. The Mimigul archetype works on the basis of summoning themselves to your opponent's side of the field, then triggering off their effects, which actually benefit you as the opponent, quote-unquote, as opposed to your actual opponent who would then control the card. First ability just allows you to then search for a flip monster or a Mimigul card from the deck to hand, so it can be any Mimigul card, spell, trap, or monster, or any flip monster themselves, so if you're running a flip pendant archetype, that's also quite useful. The other part of the effect is just to give control of this card to the opponent, so this means that actually you're getting this card back after it has its beneficial effect for you. The other main part of the effect is provided your opponent has a face-down defense position monster, which you can do within the archetype. You can instantly just special summon this card to your opponent. Well, you can special summon this actually onto your field, so it actually helps to then go into your Xyz summons. Archfiend Eccentric is a light attribute level 3 fiend type pendulum effect monster with 800 attack and 1000 defense. The pendulum scale is 7, and the pendulum monster effect, you can target one other spell or trap card on the field, destroy both it and this card. You can only use this effect of Archfiend Eccentric once per turn. The monster effect is you contribute this card, then target one monster on the field, destroy it. You can only use this effect of Archfiend Eccentric once per turn. This being a pendulum monster actually works with the inbuilt archetype, as I believe the Archfiend Emperor has a scale of 0. So if you have both of these cards, you can then pendulum summon monsters between levels 1 and 6. Most of the Archfiend monsters actually reach those kind of levels. There are a couple that are slightly higher, but that's not too much of a cost to you. The pendulum effect to be able to destroy a spell or trap card is quite decent, because most of the archetype doesn't have any spell or trap removal outside of this effect, so you'd have to be running non-specific cards such as Twin Twister to get any impact. The monster effect just allows you to tribute this to target a monster on the field and destroy it, so you have within its effects the option of either destroying a spell or trap or a monster. It can be one of your own monsters if that actually benefits you, or more likely than not, it will be against one of your opponents. Enneacraft Isa Leone is a light attribute level 9 machine type pendulum flip effect monster with 3000 attack and 2500 defense. The pendulum scale is 0, and each time a monster is flipped face up, place one EC counter on this card. At the end of the battle phase, if you have an Enneacraft card in your other pendulum zone, you can target one monster your opponent controls with less attack than this card, destroy it. The monster effect, after this card was flipped face up, while it is in the main monster zone, each time your opponent adds a card to their hand by their card effect, they take 900 damage for each card. When your opponent activates a card or effect in response to a card or effect activation, as a quick effect, you can change this face down card to face up defense position, return up to 3 cards from the field to the hand. You can reveal this card in your hand, special summon one monster from your hand in face down defense position. You cannot special summon this turn you activate this effect, except in face down defense position. The Enneacraft archetype has a number of monsters, either the level 1s or which are the small minion style of monsters, and the level 9 monsters, which are all within their own boss monsters. Each of the level 9s have 3000 attack and 2500 defense points. They're all light attribute level 9 machine pendulum flip effect monsters, and their pendulum scale is all 0. Now, you might be wondering how, if their scales are 0, that actually you summon them. Well, that actually is in keeping with the secondary part of the monster effect. Just by revealing this card in your hand, you can then choose to special summon a monster from your hand in face down defense position. This can either be a copy of itself, a copy of another Enneacraft monster, or another monster you have in general. Ideally, you would want to go into flip effect monsters, because this will then help you to activate those effects in the future without having to use any specific resources or to try and make things a lot faster. The other part of the monster effect means that every time an opponent adds a card to their hand by a card effect, they're taking 900 damage for each card. So every time they just do any sort of searching, that's 900 points, and do that a number of times, 9 times in total, they've lost a game, unless they've got life point recovery cards. And you can beat down strategy as well, with them having consistently being able to be summoned. When an opponent activates a card or effect in response to your own activation of a card, you're able to just flip this card from face down to face up defense position, and you can compulsory evacuation device 3 cards from the field to hand, so it can be yours, your opponent's, or a combination of both. Most likely you want to remove your opponent's cards, and often these can be quite difficult to then recover. With the pendulum effect, this helps to, every time a monster is flipped face up, just generate additional counters on this card. It works alongside a card called Enneapolis, where at the end of your turn, it will remove all of your EC counters and burn your opponent's life points 900 times the number of counters removed. So the more you can actually generate of those counters, the more difficult it is for your opponent to survive until beyond the end of that turn. At the end of the battle phase, provided you have another Enneacraft card in your other pendulum zone, you're able to choose a monster your opponent controls, so long as it's got less than 3,000 attack points, and it gets destroyed. There are ways of manipulating this, given that you can use stat reducing cards such as Burden of the Mighty to reduce your opponent's monsters by its level times 100 to get it down enough for this effect to work. Enneacraft Asta Pixia is a light attribute level 9 machine type pendulum flip effect monster, 3,000 attack and 2,500 defense. It has a pendulum scale of 0, and the pendulum effect, each time a monster is flipped face up, place 1 EC counter on this card. At the end of the battle phase, if you have another Enneacraft card in your other pendulum zone, you can target one monster your opponent controls with less attack than this card, destroy it. For the monster effect, after this card was flipped face up, while it is in the monster zone, your opponent cannot target cards in the field or graveyards with card effects. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a card you control, as a quick effect, you can change this face down card to face up defense position, negate that effect. Then you can banish face down one random card from your opponent's hand. You can reveal this card in your hand, special summon one monster from your hand in face down defense position. You cannot special summon the turn you activate this effect, except in face down defense position. The stat line on this is the same as the other Enneacraft boss type monsters. It's a light attribute level 9 machine pendulum, 3,000 attack and 2,500 defense. There are a series of about 4 different boss monsters, and this isn't the signature one, but it's one that's quite useful. The scale being 0 isn't a problem, given that they're able to special summon themselves, another copy of another Enneacraft monster, or another of your own monsters, just by revealing this card in your hand. It does mean that you are restricted to putting those cards in face down defense position, so they can't go in the offense immediately, but it allows for you to get these cards out without having to tribute over certain cards, and by avoiding wasting your normal summon or set. With the initial part of the monster effect, it does provide you protections, well, from your opponent targeting cards on the field or in the graveyards with card effects, so that can be either yours or your opponent's graveyard. And if they're going after your graveyard, most likely they're trying to disrupt whatever you're trying to recover. Likewise, that would actually disrupt them from recovering whatever they're trying to set up. As soon as the opponent activates a card or effect that targets a card you control, which is pretty much going to be consistent, by changing this from face down to face up defense position, not only is that effect negated, you can then banish face down a random card from your opponent's hand. Banishing face down means that your opponent isn't able to recover that card, and it's basically permanently banished. With the pendulum effect, Every time a monster is flipped face up, you can just generate these EC counters, and those counters, if used in conjunction with Enneapolis, the field spell, can burn your opponent for 900 points times the number of EC counters that have been removed from those cards by the end of the turn. This given means that just by triggering this effect 9 times, you can beat your opponent by burn effects. As soon as the end of the battle phase occurs, so long as you've got an Enneacraft card in your other pendulum zone, you're able to choose a monster opponent controls with less attack than this and destroy it. As long as it has less than 3,000 attack points, you're in a good situation. It can just wipe out those cards. However, part of the concern is you sometimes get monsters that are over this, and so you need to be running any cards that can do stat reductions to them. Enneacraft Attil Spear is a light attribute level 9 machine type pendulum flip effect monster with 3,000 attack and 2,500 defense. It's got a pendulum scale of 0, and each time a monster is flipped face up, place 1 EC counter on this card. At the end of the battle phase, if you have an Enneacraft card in your other pendulum zone, you can target one monster your opponent controls with less attack than this card, destroy it. The monster effect is, after this card was flipped face up, while this isn't the main monster zone, your opponent can activate cards or effects in response to their card or effect activation. When your opponent activates a card or effect as chain link 3 or higher, as a quick effect, you can change this face down card to face up defense position, negate the activation of your opponent's cards and effects activated before this card is in the chain, and if you do, destroy them. You can reveal this card in your hand, special summon one monster from your hand in face down defense position. You cannot special summon the turn you activate this effect, except in face down defense position. The stat line is the same as the other boss monsters, light attribute level 9s with 3,000 attack and 2,500 defense. Pendulum scale being 0 is again not an issue, as by just revealing a copy of itself, you can either special summon itself, another Enneacraft monster, or another monster you've got in a face down defense position. So you're actually getting a free special summon without wasting your normal summon or set. The first part of the monster effect, as soon as this card has been flipped face up, while in the monster zone, your opponent is then unable to respond to card effects or effect activation. Once an opponent activates a card or effect that is chain link 3 or higher, so this isn't too difficult, just by changing this card from face down to defense to face up defense, you're able to negate any effects which have been chained prior to this card being flipped face up. Not only that, but you can then destroy them. This means that your opponent is losing potentially 3-4 cards before this card ever actually triggers, which could be enough to probably not only annoy your opponent but prevent them from playing. Enneacraft Arca Tail is a light attribute level 9 machine type pendulum flip effect monster with 3,000 attack and 2,500 defense. Pendulum scale is 0, and the pendulum effect is each time a monster is flipped face up, place 1 EC counter on this card. At the end of the battle phase, if you have an Enneacraft card in your other pendulum zone, you can target one monster your opponent controls with less attack than this card and destroy it. This part of the effect means that every time you have a monster, whether it is yours or your opponent's, is flipped face up, you can just generate an EC counter, and with the Enneapolis field spell, when that's activated, it removes your EC counters at the end of the turn, and your opponent gets burned for every EC counter removed times 900 points. If you can do this the 9 times necessary, then this can be enough to effectively defeat your opponent. And at the end of the battle phase, provided you have another Enneacraft card in your other pendulum zone, you're able to choose a monster your opponent controls with less than 3,000 attack points, and destroy it. So you have 2 options you can really do with that. You can either choose to reduce your opponent's monster's attack points, various cards, or you can choose to up this card's attack points, because the only condition is that it has to be a monster with less attack points than this card. It doesn't mention original attack points, so increase in stat reductions are fair game. With the monster effect, after this card was flipped face up, while it is in the main monster zone, each time a monster is sent to your opponent's graveyard, they take 900 damage. When your opponent activates a card or effect that would destroy a card on the field, as a quick effect, you can change this face down defense position card to face up defense position. Monsters and Enneacraft spells you control cannot be destroyed by card effects for the rest of this turn. You can reveal this card in your hand, special summon one monster from your hand in face down defense position. You cannot special summon the turn you activate this effect, except in face down defense position. With the monster effect, So long as this card has been flipped face up while in the monster zone, every time a monster is sent to your opponent's graveyard, they take 900 points of damage. So the more sending they do through cards such as within synchro strategies, the more likely they are to lose life points. As soon as the opponent activates a card or effect that attempts to destroy a card on the field, be it theirs or yours, you're able to change this from face down defense to face up. This protects your monsters and any craft spells from being destroyed by card effects for the rest of the turn, so it does actually provide you with at least the full turn's protection. And the summoning effect is pretty easy, as it doesn't require any cost for you. You just have to show them a copy of this card to either bring this card, another Enneacraft monster, or another of your monsters to face down defense position. And since this is a special summon, eat up your normal summoner set. Tally-Ho Spriggans is a quick play spell card. When you activate this card, you can also detach up to 3 materials from monsters you control. Add 1 Spriggans monster from your deck to your hand. Then, if you detached any materials at activation, you can special summon that many Spriggans monsters from your hand or graveyard. During your main phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can target 1 Exceeds monster on the field, detach 1 material from it, and if you do, add this card to your hand. You can only use 1 Tally-Ho Spriggans effect per turn, and only once that turn. This card allows you to just take 3 of your materials from monsters you control. They get sent to the graveyard. The good thing is you get to search for a Spriggans monster that goes from the deck to your hand. But if you happen to respond to when you detach a material at activation, you get the benefit of being able to special summon that many Spriggans monsters from the hand or graveyard. So the more you detach, the more ability you have to recover. This is better in the long game, as you'll have more cards in your graveyard to choose from. Provided it's your main phase and this card is in the graveyard, you're able to just detach a material from it, and then recover this card to your hand, so you can actually reset and reuse this effect. Useful for spamming the field with your Spriggans monsters. New Frontier is a field spell card. If your opponent special summons a Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, Exceeds, and or Link monster, except during a damage step, you can activate one of these effects. Either add 1 Forlorn Albaz, or 1 monster that mentions it, from your deck to your hand, or special summon 1 Forlorn Albaz, 1 monster that mentions it from your hand. You can only use each effect of a New Frontier once per turn. This card works in response to provided your opponent has an extra monster pretty much on their field. And you're either able to search consistently during your turn, either a Fallen of Albaz or a monster that mentions it, so that's actually quite good, because that can then trigger off their effects if they've got those abilities within the hand. Or you can choose to special summon one of those types of cards, which will add to your field advantage. Sunset Beat is a continuous spell card. If a face-up monster you control is changed to face-down defense position, you can target 1 card on the field to destroy it. If a flip monster you control is flipped face-up, even during a damage step, you can target one of them, inflict damage to your opponent equal to its level times 200. You can only use each effect of Sunset Beat once per turn. This card is intended to support any flip-based deck, and I know the Enneacraft ones are quite powerful, given that they're very fast in response. But this is intended mostly to help decks that go about this type of effect very slowly. Provided you have a face-up monster that is changed to face-down defense position, and a lot of these cards can actually reset themselves, you can just destroy a card on the field. So it's a way of not only getting your own benefits, but also being able to disrupt whatever your opponent's doing. And if you happen to have a flip monster that's been flipped face up, you're able to burn your opponent for a certain amount of damage times 200 based on the level. So the higher the level, the more damage you can do to the opponent. Pairing this with the Enneacrafts works quite well, because when they're flipped face up, either you're going to do 200 points of damage, as you do have the small ones which are level 1s, or you can do up to 1,800 points of damage, as the boss monsters are all level 9s. Enneapolis is a field spell card. This card is always treated as an Enneacraft card. Once per turn during the end phase, remove all EC counters from your field, and if you do, your opponent takes 900 damage for each. You can only use each of the following effects of Enneapolis once per turn. You can target any number of Enneacraft Pendulum monster cards you control, return them to the hand. If an Enneacraft Pendulum monster you control is flipped face up during your main phase, choose one of them and either return it to the hand, place it in your Pendulum zone. This is the mainstay of the field spell. This can, when used correctly, help you to burn your opponent for massive chunks of damage, enough to defeat your opponent in the turn. And the first part of the effect is simply that it's treated as an any aircraft card constantly, so it can be searched by the other anti-aircraft monsters. Especially, I think the level 1s are mostly searchers. And during the end phase, just by removing all EC counters, your opponent takes 900 damage for each, so if you can actually get 9 counters locked and loaded, that'll be enough damage to defeat your opponent within the turn. The other part of the effect, just by targeting any number of any aircraft pendulum monster cards you control, they get returned to the hand, and this can be helpful for you to then re-establish your pendulum zones based on what you need. If an aircraft pendulum monster controlled is flipped face up, you're able to choose one of them and it either goes back to the hand or it gets placed in your pendulum zone, so that's also a way of you recovering those cards. Archfiend strategy is a field spell card. Fiend monsters in the extra monster zone gain 1000 attack points. You can activate one of these effects. Banish one Fiend monster or one Archfiend card from your hand or graveyard. Add one Archfiend card from your deck to your hand, except a field spell. Or add one Archfiend pendulum monster from your deck to your face-up extra deck. You can only use this effect of Archfiend strategy once per turn. Any of your Archfiends that happen to be in the extra monster zone get a booster of 1000 attack points. That's quite useful, as Matriarch would become a 3100 attack monster and the Emperor would become a 3500 attack monster. The first effect, just by banishing a Fiend monster or an Archfiend from your hand or graveyard, you get to search for any other Archfiend card from the deck to hand, except a field spell. That's a shame, but it's quite useful still, as you can technically search for a spell, a trap, or another monster. Second part of the effect just allows you to add an Archfiend pendulum monster from the deck to your face-up extra deck, which means you can then ritual summon through Ritual of the Thrones when you get to cover that. Archfiend's Ghastly Glitch is a normal trap card. If you control a Fiend monster, target one card on the field to destroy it, then you can send one Fiend monster from your deck to the graveyard. This enables you to disrupt an opponent's card, be it a monster, a spell, or a trap card, and also Foolish Burial one of your own Fiend monsters from the deck to the graveyard. It can either have a graveyard based effect where it can trigger, or option 2, what you can do is it can help you to set up for further plays. And Brightest Blazing Branded King is a normal trap card. Choose one fusion monster you control that mentions Fawn of Albaz as material and negates the effects of all other face-up cards currently on the field until the end of this turn. During the end phase, if a fusion monster was sent to the graveyard this turn, you can add this card from your graveyard to your hand. You can only use one Brightest Blazing Branded King effect per turn, and only once that turn. The first part of the effect, just so long as you've got a fusion monster with Fallen of Albaz listed as material, lets you shut down the effects of all other face-up cards on the field. It is until the end of your turn, and it is both you and your opponent, but you'll activate this at a time where your opponent's trying to do things, and you might be able to stop them from going into additional plays. Provided a fusion monster was sent to your graveyard during the end phase, you can actually recover this card from your graveyard back to the hand, so it does have some recyclability without having to run generic recovery effects.